All right. So what's going to be really sort of important is getting this done right. So right now our bones are in. If you go to bind it, it will bind, but not quite right. This is because everything's been zeroed out. It will just do whatever you want it to do, if everything is right. But we want to make sure our bones go in the right place, so our character moves correctly. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to start with the face. I have my armature selected. You see how it's orange and lit? Armature selected. I'm going to go up to object mode, and guess what? I'm going to use edit mode. Now we're editing the bone. What's really, really important is we make sure that symmetry for the bones are on. How do we know? Up here. You see that little thing that looks like a butterfly? Next to it is the letter X. Click on that X, which means all I need to do, if I select one bone, I hit G, you see how it moves the second bone as well. Super important, because we want our character to walk properly. Click on X at the top.
Where's the X?
Right there.
Yeah, no.
All right. When you select the bone, when you select the bone, it will highlight fully. You can select a single point of a bone, and it will just highlight that one part. All right.
So what are we actually moving?
All right, we're going to move the entire bone structures to fit inside the body. So we're going to start on the face side. We're going to select first the foot, just one foot. Hit G on the keyboard, move it to where the foot would be, right there. Then this bone, where let's say call it the knee bone, I'm going to select the single, I'm going to zoom right in on it, this circle, just that. The joint, thank you. If it lets me select it. Oh, rotate, select, there we go. All right?
I can't pick just one bone.
Yeah, just,
So you're in edit mode.
you must do it in edit mode. All right, so G, move it. And same thing, guys, you just keep this process up. If it's selecting too much, just rotate out, jump back in, G, move it in place.
So you want to cover the body, right?
Yep, we're giving it a skeleton. So wherever use your imagination now, wherever the skeleton would be. So, but what's really also very important is I'm going to rotate this, so I want to explain what you're seeing. Do you see how these bones are not connected? Do you look very closely, see these dotted lines? These are parenting lines. So that tells me that it is actually connected. So it's safe for me to literally grab this bone, the single one thing here, and go G and move it. All right? But there are bones you cannot do that to. There are bones, what they call the parent bone. If you break the parent, the children, which are the other bones, fall apart. So bones that will break are like here. That's the neck bone. If I hit G, it will separate, not a good look. Okay? It's an important bone. Think about it this way. In your natural spine, you break your arm, no big deal. All right? You break your neck, that's a big deal. Okay? So you have to kind of think of it from that perspective. There are parents that link to each other. So when you're moving these bones around, just be mindful, like the pelvis one. This bone right here is the most dangerous bone to break. Okay? Like in real life, you break your pelvis, you're going to have a bad day. So over here, if you click that one little circle, hit G and separate. That's a broken bone. Don't do that. Okay? If you want to make sure you select both of them because you need to move the pelvis, because you have to, I'm going to show you how to select it. You're going to drag your mouse, use a selection box, and then select it. Did you see how it was a little bit brighter? That's one. That's two. G, still broken, but if you go G on the Z, not broken. Does that make sense?
Do that again. So you made a box.
So you make a selection box. You must hit G, and then must hit Z. You need to move both parents at the exact same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So think of it this way. The weight of your pig is determined by, and when I mean weight, it's the movement. It's determined by its bones and how many bones and how big the bones are. So if I make a small pelvis, it's going to be very jiggly. If I make a big pelvis, the movements are going to be more thumping. Does that make sense? So this is up to you. As long as you don't break any bones, you're fine. Now I'll show you another bone that you can potentially break, and that's the tailbone. In here, that very last one, if I hit G, oh no, it's that one there, sorry. That bone that sits right there. G, no. Okay, if it does that, guys, Command Z or Control Z straight away. With the tail, it is a bit more convoluted because it's curly. I'm going to just one orthogonal view at a time. You're literally are going to grab these points and then you move them roughly to where they go. Flip it to Z, you notice that it's dead center. All right? Once again, G, you're grabbing the points. If you can't see a point, rotate, select, go back to Z, G, and move. Okay? If your bone sticks out of the body, it's fine. It's not going to be too bad. Just try to center it as much as possible.
Glad you're not a doctor.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. So you roughly get something like that. Now, where this point is will determine that curl. So if I click on that and say right here, it's going to be more of a big loop, which is fine. You this is something you have to trial and error. This is where being perfect can end up being your biggest downfall. As long as everything is where it should be, you generally get the correct things. So right now, the bending process of the legs, this is a quadruped. So it's got different pivoting motions, right? If we move this bone forward, it's going to stuff up its movements, okay? So you've got to try to keep the positioning of the bones as good as possible. So I'm moving that there, and I'm going to move that there. As long as the angle stays relatively the same, you shouldn't have too much of an issue.
Can you grab the whole structure and move it forward?
Yeah, like that. You can do that. But I like using the single joints because that gives you more finite movement. So this is one of the ones that your students will stuff up because they get frustrated. They get annoyed. It's a slow and tedious process. You have to be patient with this, and you got to constantly move in orthographic. Do not try to do this in 3D. It is absolutely rubbish in 3D. You can never position them properly.
Where is he coming from?
Orthographic is this. It's the view that we're looking at. It's two-dimensional, the flat. So the Z view, the X view, the Y view. All right, that's kind of looking all right. And let's get, if you want to know how to move the spine, which is actually important, because technically, see that bone right there? That's the head bone. That's the skull. So hold your finger on shift and select every single bone, and I mean every single bone in the skeleton. Maybe not the last one, because that's not important. Hit G. Move it down roughly to where you want, and then get that one back up to where it needs to be. And then bring the head inwards.
So should that be at the snout, or should that be up at the forehead?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can put it in the snout, it just makes it harder at that point. So let's do that. Let's put it in the snout and kind of get something that looks like,
Maybe it's doing the nose.
yeah, that's fine. That looks all right. Now, what I might change is the shoulder bones.
Be above that.
See that bone there? I'm just going to move it out a little bit so there's more upper shoulder movements. And the pelvis, well, the pelvis can stay where it is. There it is. That's it. That's a good looking rig. All right.